Hello there, Kevin here with another wonderful episode of the Feel Good English Podcast, the podcast that inspires you to not only become a better English learner, but to become a better version of yourself. Today is a very important lesson, and I think this is one of the keys to a better life, and it is about habits. Our day is made up of habits. Research shows that even up to 40% of what we do in a day is based on unconscious habits, meaning we do things without even thinking about them. Through the book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, we can learn how to change bad habits and how to build good habits. Habits are powerful. Our brain wants to be as efficient as possible. That's why, like I said, up to 40% of our day is based on habits. Our brain doesn't have the power, doesn't have the capacity to perform conscious tasks all day long, thinking about what they're going to do next. When you start driving, it's hard. You have to think a lot about it, right? But over the years, it becomes natural. All those steps you take while you're driving become habits. Your brain figures it out and doesn't require as much brain power to make it work. Brain efficiency is behind habits. The book, The Power of Habit, through tons of research, shows you how to do this, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. If you want transcripts to this episode, go to feelgoodenglish.com/member. And don't forget, at the end of the lessons here, I'm going to talk about the English vocabulary that I used during the episode to help you become an excellent English speaker. Now let's get into The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So the first lesson is about cravings. When you crave something, it means you desire that thing. You really want something. How habits work is they actually create cravings in our brain. Think of a dog. When you create a habit in a dog, or you're training a dog to do something, you usually use a treat, like a little cookie or a little dog treat. And the dog starts craving that treat. You will teach him to perform an action. Let's say sit. So you say, hey dog, sit. And why would the dog care? Why does the dog care if you tell it to sit? Because he's craving the treat afterwards. He sits, you give him a treat, you maybe give him some love, you pet his head, he feels good. And he craves that feeling. And that's exactly how habits work. I'll give you another example. So I love drinking coffee. I drink coffee every day. Brazil has great coffee, so I really got hooked on coffee in Brazil. When I wake up in the morning, I'm tired, like most people. First 20 minutes, I'm really tired. So I crave coffee, which will give me energy. Does it actually scientifically give me energy right away? Probably not, but the act of doing it makes me feel more awake, and then maybe 30 minutes later, I actually get some caffeine benefits. But I wake up in the morning and I crave energy. I crave feeling more awake. So I drink coffee. After doing this for a while, coffee begins to taste good, and you crave the flavor of coffee. If you notice, kids or teenagers, a lot of times they don't think coffee is very tasty because they also don't crave the energy effects. They don't really think about the energy effects. They just think about the flavor. So it's not really important how it tastes. But for me, who likes to feel awake and alive in the morning, coffee brings that to me physically. So the coffee flavor becomes great as well. So habits create cravings in us. A big part of this book is something called the habit loop. There are 3 aspects to a habit. The first aspect is a cue. A cue is a trigger or a sign that creates the first action. So a cue signals something in the brain. It can signal an emotion or a thought. And that cue tells you to do something after that. So in the coffee situation, what's the cue? The cue is I wake up and I'm tired. So I think, well, what do I need to do to not feel tired? That is the cue. The second is the action. I make coffee. Sometimes I make an espresso. I have a cool little Nespresso machine, or I make a filtered coffee, or I also use something called AeroPress, which is a little plastic device that you use to make espressos. But anyway, the cue is I'm tired, and the action is I make coffee. And what's the reward? That's the third part of the loop. The reward is I feel more awake, and the flavor is good. So the cue is the first part, the action is the second part, and the reward is the third part. What this means is that you can change habits if you kind of mess with this loop. If you experiment and change certain aspects of this habit loop. The good news is you can change habits based on this. The bad news is bad habits are also based on this as well. But changing the cues and changing the rewards can change our actions. Let's say I wanted to stop drinking coffee. For some reason, I wanted to quit. The doctor says, hey, Kevin, stop drinking so much coffee. What would I need to do? Well, the cue is not going to change. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be tired. So my brain will think, oh, I'm tired. I need something to wake up. Normally, I would go make coffee, and the reward would be I feel better. But let's change the action. What else can I do in the morning to wake up, to feel better? Maybe splash some cold water on my face, or take that even farther and take a cold shower. That would be intense, but it would wake me up. And the reward would be I would feel more awake. Changing the action in the middle there would still get the same reward. However, it would be different. It would be not drinking coffee. So tweaking the action is how we change habits. Now, the second lesson here is something called keystone habits. Keystone habits are the foundational habits that are going to set up bigger life changes. An example is when somebody is obese, when they're very overweight, it's very hard for them to change their whole lifestyle. Eat better, exercise more. What researchers have found is if a large person can change their keystone habits, these basic small habits, it can lead to bigger change. One thing an overweight person can do is start recording, keeping a journal of their diet, writing down all of the foods that they eat daily. So for breakfast, they had this, and for lunch, they had this and this and this. And for them to start thinking about what they're eating every day. Over a few weeks or some time, they'll start considering their health more. They'll start thinking about what they're eating, and they can build off this. Maybe they'll start eating better, start exercising more, but focusing on the foundational habits first. Keystone habits create small wins, and this is very important. Feeling good about what you're doing every day is what can bring motivation and help you change habits. An example in my life, and this has happened a few times. So let's say I wanted to start an exercise routine. Say, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week for an hour and a half each time. It's pretty hard to start doing that. You might know that as well. What I've done in the past is I've started exercising, doing this exercise routine that you can find online or on a phone app called the 7-minute workout. And this is proven to be effective. It's only 7 minutes, but it's a full body workout that you can do at home in your living room in front of the TV. So instead of having to go all the way to the gym, stay there for an hour and a half, drive home, do all of that, you start with a keystone habit of working out 7 minutes a day. You get up, you go work out for 7 minutes, and you feel good. Small wins build on each other, and we can create greater change if we start small. So connecting this keystone habit back into this habit loop. Because remember, we need to work with a cue, which triggers or which starts the thought of doing something. And that will create an action, which will give us the reward. So what's the cue? Let's say I set an alarm in my phone at whatever time. The alarm goes off, says, Kevin, get off your butt. Let's do some 7-minute workout. I get up, I do 7 minutes. And then after that quick 7 minutes, I'm done. I feel good because I got it over with. And that is the reward. In the beginning, it's going to be tough. Do it for a week. It'll get easier, I promise. Do it for 2 weeks, be even easier. And by the third week, you'll probably be like, 7 minutes is nothing. Let's start going to the gym. And then you will increase this habit, which will lead to greater change. So keystone habits, foundational habits are the key to creating positive change. So if you're listening to this, you are probably an English learner. So what do you want to happen? You want to speak English better. How are you going to get there? Let's start with some keystone habits. First thing, create a daily listening routine. Listening is easy. You can do it from anywhere. You don't need to spend money. You can be on the bus, going for a walk, exercising, whatever that may be. Listening for maybe 5 minutes a day. Start small, 5 minutes a day. If you can't listen to English for 5 minutes a day, you really have to reevaluate your priorities, and maybe English isn't a big priority for you right now. But 5 minutes a day should be easy. Do this for a week. You're going to feel good about what you're doing. You're going to say, wow, I'm studying every day. Even though it's only 5 minutes, I'm doing it every day. And just grow off that. Grow these habits. Start small, 5 minutes of listening. Do that for a couple weeks. And then naturally, and this is important, naturally you'll feel like doing more. You ever heard of the law of least effort? The law of least effort means things can happen more naturally. We don't have to force things to happen. And through habit building, using less effort to make positive changes can lead to big results. But start small. Don't get in over your head. Don't try to do 4 hours a day of listening or studying a big textbook. Start small. Keystone habits. Now let's talk about the habit loop. So what's the cue you're going to use for listening? Put headphones in your pocket, or put headphones in your backpack, or put headphones in your purse. Put little headphones there. So when you see those, you say, oh, it's time to listen. Get on your phone or your iPod or whatever you may have and start listening. Start listening to a podcast, audio lesson, whatever that may be. But the cue is seeing your headphones. The action is going to be, you're going to listen to something, and the reward after 5 minutes could simply be you feel better about it. Maybe you need a better reward. Maybe you do this before going onto Facebook and looking at all your friends' posts. Or maybe you need to drink a Coca-Cola after the 5 minutes of listening, and that makes you feel good. Because the reward is what we will crave. Remember about craving? We will crave this reward. Sometimes we can crave feeling better. You go to the gym. After the gym, you feel great. You crave that feeling. It doesn't have to be chocolate or coffee, but you crave a feeling. So summarizing this, lesson 1, cravings are what creates habits. And cravings are based on the rewards we get after performing actions. Habits are based on a habit loop. We have a cue which starts a thought. This thought leads to an action. And this action gives us a reward. Could be a bad habit. You smoke. You feel relaxed after that. It's still a reward. Your brain doesn't know if it's good or bad. Your brain is just a machine. Or it could be exercising. You see the gym. You go to the gym. You feel better. Pay attention to these cues, what triggers the thoughts in your head, and also pay attention to your cravings. Lesson 2, keystone habits. Make sure you focus on small habits, daily habits that will build the foundation for a better life, for better habits. If you want to improve your English, your keystone habit is daily listening. Input, listening to real English every day is the key to fluency. Start there. If you want to be fit, more physically fit, start with a quick 7-minute workout and build your habits from there. Now it's time for the vocab lesson. Big part of this episode, I use the word crave. It's a verb, to crave. To crave something is to have a strong desire for that thing. My wife, she craves chocolate. To crave. C-R-A-V-E. Often we use this in the present progressive form. I'm craving. Oh, right now I'm craving a lovely glass of Pinot Noir. Next verb, to pet. P-E-T, to pet. To pet is used for animals. Most of the time, it's to take your hand and to rub or to pass it over an animal. You pet a dog, you pet a cat. It's to give affection with your hand. To pet. Next phrase here, I say I get hooked on coffee or I got hooked on coffee. To get hooked on something, hooked, H-O-O-K-E-D. To get hooked on something means to become addicted to that. So I get hooked on coffee, I become addicted to coffee. Or he's hooked on video games. He's addicted to video games. Hooked on or get hooked on. Phrasal verb, hook on. Bam. Next word, tasty, comes from the word taste. If something is tasty, it means it tastes good. And one of the most important words from this episode, cue. C-U-E. In this context, cue means something that triggers or something that starts a thought. It can start an action, an emotion. When it's a cue, it's the thing that causes a reaction. So I wake up in the morning, I'm tired, and I notice that I'm tired, and that's the cue. The cue causes me to make coffee and drink it. Speaking of that, the next phrase here, filtered coffee. That's the typical traditional way, especially the American way, of taking coffee, putting the coffee in a paper filter, and letting water pass through it. Filtered coffee, like you'd make at home. Next phrase here is a phrasal verb, mess with, mess, M-E-S-S, with. To mess with something in this context means to take apart something or to try to fix something, to learn more about how it works. So you're having a problem with something, and let's say you can't get a certain device to work, and said, I can't get this device to work. Said, oh, here, mess with this for a minute. Mess with this for a minute, see if you can get it to work. So take it apart, fix it, try to do something complicated, whatever it may be, to make it work better. Next word, splash, a verb, to splash. To splash is to throw water, usually a small amount of water, on somebody. So you're in a swimming pool, somebody splashes water on your face, to splash. Or you're walking down the street in the rain, and a car drives by, and it hits a puddle of water, meaning water that is standing in the street. It hits a puddle of water which splashes all over you and causes a mess. And then you give the guy the middle finger as he drives away. Next word, to tweak, tweaking. To tweak is to make small adjustments. We need to tweak this to make it better. Tweaking something, making small adjustments to improve something. And lastly, an expression, to get over your head. Don't get over your head. Think about it. If things are getting over your head, it means there's too many things going on. You're overwhelmed, a word that I have used in other episodes, and there's too many things going on and too many things to do. You're over your head. You are beyond your ability to handle something, or maybe you don't understand it. Say, that joke was over my head. I couldn't understand it. It's beyond my ability to understand it. Or the math problem. Say, whoa, that's complicated. That is way over my head. Habits are the key to making big life changes. Consistency, doing things daily, small things lead to big changes. You want to become a fluent English speaker? What you do every day will make the difference. So today, let's start small. Think of something you want to happen in your life. Let's find something you can do today to start small. Like I said, if you want to become an English speaking badass, let's start with 5 minutes of listening every day. If you feel that you aren't physically fit, go online and search for the 7-minute workout. I'll also post a link on my website so you can find that. And start with a 7-minute workout. Easy peasy. But start small. Make yourself feel good every day. Small wins lead to big habit changes. Okay? Again, if you want the transcript to this, go to feelgoodenglish.com/member. Learn how you can become a member for free, which gives you access to free transcripts. And leaving you with another stupid joke. By the way, if you don't understand these jokes, go onto my website because I always explain the humor behind them. The reason I put these jokes here are to make you laugh if you get the joke, but also jokes can be hard to understand. So through learning the subtleties of English culture and American culture, you can reach that next level of English understanding. All right, so go check those out on the website if you don't get it. And here's your joke. What's fat, hairy, and drinks a lot of coffee? Jabba the Hutt. Little Star Wars humor. See you next time.